Hey, do you know what's common between some of my favorite guitar players? Namely, Joe Satriani, Andy Timmons, John Petrucci, David Gilmour, Steve Vai, John Mayer, Joe Bonamassa, and the list just goes on and on and on. They're all fabulous guitar players, no doubt about it. But they have such a unique identity. The moment you listen to their music, you know it's them. I'm talking about their tone. They have a signature tone that just helps you identify that this is so and so. All great guitar players eventually, at some point or the other, work out a tone that is so unique and helps you kind of identify their music. And it's epic how they manage to do this. It's something that I've always been so fascinated about. How can a guitar player develop this tone that only he or she can kind of come up with? And even if you go and buy the same equipment that they are using, you can get somewhere similar to what their sound is like, but you can never sound exactly like them. Everything is just as unique as they are. In simple words, I would explain tone as the voice of your instrument. I mean, it's kind of like the chemistry that your hands share with your instrument. How do you get this unique sound out of your instrument, and how your hand and your instrument respond to each other? It's wow, it's epic. It's so beautiful to just kind of start trying to understand that whole process. Whether you choose to play one note or five notes, if you have a great guitar tone, it's just going to sound incredible. But if you have a really bad tone, then no matter what technique you use, how many notes you play, how fast you play, how slow you play, whatever it is that you do, it's just going to sound bad. Even your playing is not even going to sound melodic in the first place. So bad tone is purely uninspirational. So tone is a very subjective thing. I mean, you're going to possibly spend a long time trying to find a tone that defines your music, that kind of gives you the signature identity to your music. And I can't tell you where does that journey end, but I can definitely help you set up a solid foundation to start with and help you understand where can you begin if you want to get a good tone. How do you work and come up with a good tone? What are the basic things that you need to understand if you're going to set yourself up for this journey and try and find the tone that is so uniquely you? In our EQ series, we spoke about the human hearing range being 20 hertz on the lower side and 20 kilohertz on the upper side. I just want to take a quick moment to try and understand what is the frequency range the guitar occupies within this spectrum. Okay, let's get on with the range test and let's try and see what is the lowest range and the highest range this guitar has to offer. Remember this, irrespective of what you choose, a lot of your tone has to do with you, meaning the way you strum your guitar, how hard or how soft you play, the choice of plectrum, and how does the guitar respond to the way you fret, the way you strum, all of these things, your intensity and the tone of the wood that is being used to make the instrument. All of these things are going to play a huge role in the sound that you're going to get. So you will have to try and experiment and see what works for you and find something that is truly yours. Okay, now let's try and compare the range of the acoustic instrument to the electric guitar and see if it changes a lot. The first thing I recommend if you want to get on this whole tone journey is that broadly list out the favorite guitar players that you like listening to, whose tones inspire you to go back to their music again and again. Once you have this list, do a little bit of research and try and find out what type of an instrument do they play. I mean, if they're playing an electric guitar, then they would either be playing a Strat or maybe a Tele or a Les Paul style guitar or something more like the Ibanez or PRS kind of stuff. So try and find out what is it that they use on a regular basis. Suppose the top three guitar players that you listen to and you love are all Fender Strat players. Then I don't think you're going to do fine buying a guitar that is not a Strat style guitar. And similarly, if the top three guitar players are Les Paul players, then I don't think you'll be fine buying a guitar which is not a Les Paul style guitar. So if you want to start and try and get something to begin with, to set a foundation with, it starts with the instrument that you choose. And don't be confused. Eventually, you're going to find your own sound irrespective of whichever type of instrument you choose. Because you're going to be taking stuff from multiple guitar players, whether it's the type of musical phrasing, it's the choice of techniques, it's the way they strum, the way they pick. I mean, all these things, the way they fret, the way they hold the guitar, all of it is something that you learn from different guitar players that you admire. And whether you like it or not, a huge part of you is going to bleed into this whole mix, and that's what over a period of time kind of develops into your own sound. You grow out of certain things, and you grow fond of certain things, and it kind of keeps evolving and changing over a period of time, and that's the beautiful part of being on this journey. Scenario number one: if you have chosen an acoustic instrument as your choice of instrument because you love the sound of an acoustic guitar, then couple of things that I want you to try at first is buy different types of plectrums. Plectrums, again, different materials, different shapes, different sizes. You get all kinds of things. Buy something that is really thin and buy something that's thick. And try out both and see which one do you like. Let's switch the pick. You see that the sound of both are really different. One feels a little more honky and you hear more of a plectrum sound, while the other feels more smooth and nice, and you get a more balanced and a more pleasant tone. And I personally love the thinner picks for strumming, and I use the thicker ones for playing solos and riffs and stuff like that. That's just my choice. But try this is the first thing that I would recommend you to try. The next thing is, whichever pick you choose eventually, try and understand the sound how the sound changes as you strum around the different regions of the instrument. If you go towards the bridge, you're going to get a more brittle, bright, harsh, thin kind of a sound. These are words to describe the sound that you get when you strum around the bridge area of your instrument. And if you move closer to the neck, you're going to get a more dull, dark, round, like, yeah, I mean, I would use maybe those three words to describe the sound of the instrument if you strum towards the neck. I mean, you've got a natural EQ going on here. And if you want a more balanced tone, a little bit of the body or the roundedness or the dullness or the darkness, and also a little bit of the brightness and that that upper range treble frequency to kind of cut through when you're playing it along other instruments, then you can try and strum somewhere in the middle region and move to either side depending on what you want more, which character you want more. You can even vary if you want to do that. That's perfectly up to you. Scenario number two, if you chose an electric instrument and you love the sound of an electric guitar, the energy and all of that the electric guitar has to offer, and you think this is what you really want to start learning with, the first couple of things that I'm going to tell you, of course, the type of plectrum that you choose is going to make the same kind of difference as it made to the acoustic guitar. So it does change the way it feels under your fingers when you're playing it. So do try out different picks and choose something that feels comfortable for the kind of stuff that you're doing on an electric guitar, for example. The second thing that I would definitely tell you on an electric guitar is try and learn how the tone knob and the volume knob makes a massive difference to your playing. Let's check it out. I'm going to switch the pickup position to the neck pickup, and I'm going to keep my volume knob full and the tone knob is full right now. Let's see what happens. I'm going to start rolling the tone knob down, and you will see this behaves very similar to what we discussed in the EQ series videos. This behaves like the high cut knob or the low pass filter. It's going to start cutting down the higher frequencies and the tone starts getting more dull. The same thing happens with the tone knob for the bridge pickup as well. I hope those differences were pretty evident and clear for you. Also, remember, this is something that I've seen with inexpensive entry level guitars. The electronics are often of inferior quality, and because of that, sometimes when you turn the tone knob, you really don't hear a lot of difference. It takes almost all the way down for you to start hearing a difference, and almost all the way up for you to hear that it's on the extreme spectrum. Anywhere in between, it kind of barely makes a difference. So which means those pots that are being used inside are not really good ones. It may need some kind of an upgrade. Sorry about that. Generally tends to happen with inexpensive guitars, but yeah, you get the idea. The next thing that I would focus on is the pickup position. The switch helps us choose between the different pickups that I would like to use, which influences the sound of the instrument. It's kind of like, where am I choosing to strum or play the guitar? Closer to the neck pickup is going to give you a warm sound. Closer to the bridge pickup is going to give you a bright sound. And somewhere the middle position is going to give you a balance of the two. So try and play around with this and see what you can achieve. because you can achieve a lot of different types of sound just by playing around with your tone knob and your pickup position. It really it's kind of like the best EQ that you have on the instrument itself, and you can just play around with these and get different permutations and combinations of tones. Also, the volume knob sometimes can do a very similar behavior. As you start cutting the volume of the guitar, you can start losing out some of the higher frequencies or the treble frequencies unless the guitars are equipped with something called as a treble bleed capacitor. So it's a bit technical. If you're a newbie, then you might struggle to understand these, but your guitar tech would be able to help you with that. So remember that irrespective of which instrument you choose, your playing has a lot to do with the sound. It's how you hit the string, what kind of plectrum do you choose, what kind of pickup position you use. All of these things, every little bit of these, even the cable that you use, because cable is what transfers the signals from the guitar to your amplifier, and all of that makes a massive difference. I mean, you got to try and understand this combination. So the first thing I really recommend is that don't put in any effects, don't add any kind of distortion pedals or processors or anything in the chain. Plug your instrument straight into a clean amp and try and understand what does your guitar sound like, and maybe keep all the EQ knobs on your amp. If you do have that option, keep it all flat so you just understand what does your instrument sound like with just using these controls that's available on your guitar. So let your ears be the judge and guide you what works for you at different points in time. Honestly speaking, it's perfectly fine if you've grown out of something that you loved 3 years ago and then now you just can't get along with that kind of a tone. You're looking for something like drastically different. It's perfectly fine if that happens to you. It happens to me all the time. If you're a newbie, then don't pressurize yourself in trying to be able to hear all these subtle differences. Sometimes it may take a while for your ears to kind of catch up and start hearing these subtle changes that different guitar players keep talking about. Also, I really believe that it helps a lot to be able to describe the kind of sound that you want in words. Try and find the words, try and learn these terms because they help you communicate the same to musicians, communicate the same to maybe manufacturers, or even if you visit a music store and you want to talk to somebody and get some kind of an idea or an advice. It really helps if you have references and use the right kind of terms. It helps you in your journey being a musician. And all of this applies even if you're not a guitar player. It's perfectly fine. Even if you're a drummer, you're a pianist, or you're a bass player, or I don't know, you're a violinist, whatever it is, that it's definitely going to apply. If you don't have a good tone, there's nothing more uninspiring than that. People are not going to listen to your playing. So you owe to yourself. Here's what I strongly suggest, if I may. Pause practicing all the fanciest licks and all these crazy things that you want to work on, which is great, by the way. They're amazing and you need to work on those things. But take some time out and try and work on your tone. Try and build some time into your practice schedule to just work on your tone. Try and listen to different kinds of music and see if you can achieve certain tones. It's very important that you do this because good tone means your music is going to translate really well to your audience. Your audience is going to find it really pleasing and beautiful. Bad tone means whatever you play, it doesn't matter. They're just going to be like that at your concert. So anyway, thank you so much for staying with me. I hope this video benefits you and helps you find your tone. Let me know, where are you in your tone journey? Are you a total newbie? Have you been doing this for a while? Maybe you've bought a bunch of gear and you're kind of struggling with some pedals, some amps, whatever it is that you're struggling with. And if you're a producer, or if you're learning to become a producer, you're training yourself to become a producer, then nothing is more important than tone. You gotta have that as your first priority. Tone is everything if you're going to be a producer. So stay tuned. There'll be more videos coming up, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. And until then, don't forget to create, play, and record.